www.DESIblitz.com.
My name's Nayak, and we're doing East is East at Birmingham Rep here on the stage, which is nice. We've not been on this couch for about 12 hours. We've had off. Yeah, I'm from Birmingham originally, so it's great to come back to Brum and do a play here. And yeah, East is East. It's been really well received, and it's really decent text. I left drama college about 4 or 5 years ago. I trained in Bristol, had a great time there, moved to London, started working, and yeah.
I trained at kind of like an drammy kind of thing when I was a lot younger, and then went to a place called The Workshop, which was run by ITV and then the BBC, and they have a lot of close connections with like little programmes like Doctors and The Bill and things like that, and you kind of get a few jobs, like learning on the job kind of thing, and then you kind of develop on to getting an agent, which I did when I was 18, and this is my first theatre job.
Yeah, neither of my parents are from an acting background at all. You know, mum's an accountant, so it was new for them, and I think they've learned as much about it as I have. You know, we've as a family kind of been learning. All right, so how does this go? You know, I know no actors until I started, and met lots of people in the business. And they came to see it last night. They loved the show. They sat in the bar. They said, "Yeah, it was good. Well done." You know, no, they've been great actually.
I love it. I really do love it. It's a real journey. I don't think television's real acting, because you kind of do this. It is, and there's some great actors who've done some fantastic TV work, but for me, I don't feel like it's really acting. I just feel it's like re-imitating kind of face movements that you did, and carry on doing it, and carry on doing it, and carry on doing it at different angles, whereas with theatre, you kind of start at the beginning and finish at the end every night. You've got that journey, you've got that build-up. Sarah Jane's great, but it's quite kind of cheesy for children. Like, everything you do, like chasing aliens, everything has to be explained in great depth. The good thing about Sarah Jane is that you had kind of a lot of like jokes for adults as well as children, so you'll have your little kind of double entendres for the adults or whatever, and your things for your kids. But no, this doing real emotional stuff is just great. Like, doing stuff with green screen is really exciting, and chasing aliens around various cities of England is quite fun. But dealing with real kind of things that British Asians deal with now and dealt with like back in the day, back in 1970, it's nice doing something a bit more real, close to home.
Yeah, I made a point of not watching the film before we started this job, because I didn't want my performance to be just copying what was in the film. I love the film. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a classic British film. But the play is different. There are differences to it. Some of the characters, I play Abdul in this, and you get to see a lot more of him in the play, I think, than you do in the film. And he's got a real journey throughout it. You know, he finds out about this arranged marriage right at the very start of the play, and it's not until the very end, you know, the last scene with him, that he starts to talk about what he thinks is the solution. So I really approached this as a play. It was a play originally in Birmingham, I think. So it was quite nice to look at it from that angle, rather than going, yeah, okay, we're just going to try and copy the film. It was good to put our own stamp on it, I think.
Meena doesn't really have like a set story. I mean, obviously, like all the brothers, both the older brothers, Tariq and Abdul, kind of have the journey of finding out that they're going to have an arranged marriage, and how they both take that on and deal with it, and whether they fly or fight. Do you know what I mean? Whether they stay or whether they go. And with a lot of the brothers, there seems to be a direct story. With Thaj, for example, obviously he's grown up, he's got an illness, and for Salim, he's an artist, and everyone thinks he's an engineer, and Munir's like obviously takes after his father. Meena doesn't really have a set journey, but I think the important thing is not to let that slip. You have to realise that she is like a strong female, and she is there to show the balance between males in British Asian family and females, and how different. For example, when she first enters the final scene and Mr. Shah just completely ignores her, and a lot of the audience laughs just because it's so true of how it still is now, especially in Muslim families. Like, girls just don't exist. Oh, you've got 5 sons, that's great. Yeah, he's also got a daughter, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And Meena's a massive character.
Well, yeah, I think Ayub could have easily have written her as like a very reserved, quiet Asian sister that gets on with it, makes the tea, do you know what I mean? Kind of does whatever.
She kicks ass.
But she does. She absolutely
really
doesn't.
feisty.
Yeah, she kicks ass and she's fighting to be heard all the time or whatever, which I really respect him for doing, because it would have been so easy to write a submissive kind of.
And it's so true as well, I guess. You're in a family with 5 brothers. The girl is going to have to fight for her corner.
Yeah.
And you know, she's really feisty and she's really on it, and, you know, Angie's just like that in real life, which really helps. Well, this is a much bigger production. The Pilot Theatre, we were touring, so we had a smaller set, which we toured around the country. Whereas here, because we're staying in Birmingham, we've got this fantastic, you can't see it here, but all of this sofa flies back and bits fly in and all that kind of stuff. And it's a completely different production. But I think it just shows when you've got a really, really well-written script, you can have 2 productions that are completely different but both equally true. And I think that's what we've got with Iqbal Khan. I mean, this show, everything about it just feels right. And I think he's done an amazing job. I think it's a very good point, you know, but I do think it's something that's changing, and all these things, I think, take time. Certainly looking at Asian actors in film, suddenly we're in a place where you've got lots of great Asian actors in mainstream films and being cast as actors, not as Asian actors. And I think that's really important, and I think that's something that's growing and growing and growing. And although I think East is East is definitely a play about the British Asian experience, it's a play about relationships. And everyone in this play has kind of come to it saying, you know, we're doing a play about a family. And that's what I love about it. And I've been really lucky with the telly stuff I've done. You know, Coronation Street, I was playing a teacher who could have been Asian or of any race, really. I think casting is changing in that respect. I think that people are being a lot braver about giving those kind of parts to Asians.
It is changing. Like, I went up for the lead girl in the first series of In-Betweeners. It was to play the popular girl at school. I don't know how crude this is, but obviously the popular girl at school, even now, is the tanned girl with big jugs and blonde hair. Whatever school you go to, there's never an Asian girl. I got down to the last round though, I was up against her, and even to get that far for a non-Asian specific role in quite a funny show, was quite impressive. But obviously when it came down to it, no matter how impressed I was, it obviously, like, they went for the typical popular girl or whatever. So I was a bit snuffed, but I think it is changing, and it will change more. I don't really go to a lot of Asian functions, but when I do, I love. This is the thing. This is what a lot of the characters are like in East is East. Like, a lot of them don't really deal with being Asian. Do you know what I mean? Meena, I'm not the P word or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And even Tariq and Abdul starts to, because he's older than us. I think even myself and Chris, when you're younger, you hate being Asian just because of how bullied I was. But as soon as I hit 16, it's just something that I'm so proud of now. I'm so happy to have something that makes me a bit different to everyone else at school or college or whatever. And I think now I feel really proud if I wear an Indian sari or I wear an Indian suit or I learn how to make a curry or whatever, because it's part of me. Do you know what I mean?
There is a moment at the end, isn't there, where Archie, well, don't want to give too much away, but Archie attacks Ella and Abdul steps up and tackles his father. We had a brilliant fight director called Kevin, who has been in 2 or 3 times now, just to work with us and make those fights safe. is they have to be choreographed. It's like a dance when you're doing that. You can't go, oh, I'm in the moment, I'm in the character. You have
the
to
anger has to stop. The second your fist comes near a face, anger stops and it becomes a dance, doesn't it?
It becomes a dance. So
just a dance with a pulled anger face.
Absolutely. And a brilliant fight director can do that so that to the audience it looks out of control. On stage, it's completely safe.
That's what we loved about Kevin as well. It's so easy to make a fight just look like a fight. And one of the main things Iqbal wanted from this kind of the violence in this was to make it look messy. To make it look like, was that supposed to happen? Did that person actually just get hit then? Or was that, do you know what I mean? Just a complete mess and make it look like it's just completely spontaneous. And I think a lot from the feedback we've been getting is that that's been achieved. So, yeah.
It's such an emotive word, isn't it? You know, if I hear it in the street, it still makes me shiver. You know, there's all those times when you talked about being bullied at school, and it happened to me as well, and that word would be used to attack you, and it's you know, it can be a horrible word. What I think is great about this play is that it doesn't shy away from using it at all. Tariq, I think, is the main person who says that, and he does so because he's making a point. He's trying to align himself with the West, and that's how he chooses to do it. And it's fascinating how what Ayub's done brilliantly is to say, well, the only way that this character can put himself in that context is to use this word against his siblings, which says so much about what they've experienced as a family and the racism that's come towards them. You don't see any racism in the play. I remember thinking a brilliant addition in the film where they have a little kind of a guy who's being quite BNP-like, and which I thought was a lovely addition. You don't see that in the play, and yet it's there throughout. And Ayub uses that word brilliantly, I think, to show that. Sometimes with groups of my friends who are all Asian, we will use that word in that way, you know, as a term of affection. Yeah. I think words are how you use them, aren't you? You know, people will call me all sorts of things, and I know they mean it with deep love, and I appreciate that. I mean, you know, this is Iqbal said to us, this is a play where there's lots of laughs, but you've got a knife in your pocket as well. And I think the use of that word is part of that. This is a shocking play. There are some shocking things. There's domestic violence. There's all sorts of real nerve-tingling stuff. And that's why it's a great script. Great script, because of those things. Yeah.